Okay, so now we know how to do linear algebra, addition, subtraction, multiplication, transpose, and how to calculate covariance matrices. The final thing we need is regression. So we want to know, how do prices change when the short interest rate changes? So we want to regress price on the short interest rate. So first of all, we might want to know what is the intercept. And luckily in Excel, we can usually just write. So let's see if there is an intercept command. Yay, there is. And when you double click it, you're gonna see, okay, we need to first highlight the y's and then the x's. So in this case, we have the price, which is the y. And in my Swedish version, I have semicolon. And then I need to highlight the x variable and close down the parentheses. And then I get the intercept of 15.78. To simplify this, I want to now name these. So the price is the y variable, and this is now the x variable. However, if I try to do this, something strange can happen now. So it switched now to the covariance matrix, but because in the previous step, I named this matrix x. And Excel is not case sensitive, so uppercase x and lowercase x is the same name. So for me to use the x name now, I need to delete the old name. And the way to do that is to go under Formulas and Name Manager. So here we have now all the names that are active, and I want to delete this one now. Are you sure I want to delete the name? Yes. And then I push close, and then I highlight this, and then I name it X now. And now it should work. However, now something terrible have happened to my spreadsheet. Because if I go back to the covariance matrix now, suddenly this calculation has broken. And this is one of these very frustrating things with Excel also, is that it's very easy to break a spreadsheet. And if you have ever worked in a firm that use a lot of Excel, these kind of errors are very common, that somebody breaks the spreadsheet because they do something stupid somewhere in the spreadsheet. And it's almost impossible to fix. Because now, let's assume now that I come back here and I want to use this, and it's like, oh, it's broken. And then it's like, okay, so there's an X here. Oh, okay, let's see, where is this X? And then it's like, oh, but this is a short interest rate column. That is not what I want. So unless I have this comment up here that this is the X matrix, this error is gonna be very hard to find and fix. And this is something that is very frustrating in Excel, is that when you start having large Excel files, things gonna break for you, and it will be very hard to find the errors. So once again, if you're gonna have a larger project, try to move away from Excel as quickly as possible and go to more powerful softwares. Okay, enough ranting about that. Let's get back to regression. At least this sheet gonna work, because now I have named this one y and this one x. So now I can just use the short names instead. So I want to find the slope of y on x, push enter. I want to find the r square of y on x. So 53% of the variation in price is explained by the short interest rate. There is actually a command called linest in Excel, which actually going to output a lot of information for you. But once again, it's very hard the first time you're working in Excel to realize, oh, there is a command that does this and actually output stuff. Moreover, it's not obvious what it does output. So if I make equal sign here, linest, then I can put in the y variable, the x variable, and then, okay, do I want a constant? Yes, you always want a constant when you run regressions. And do I want to return additional statistics? Yeah, that seems to be good, so I'm gonna add that also. And then if I push enter now, I get a number. And unless I had this helpful text here, then it's like, what is this? No idea. So that means that you probably need to go online, find a help file, and then it's like, okay, what is the first cell? It's like, what is the first cell? No idea. So you probably need to read all this text to find out, okay, what is this cell? What is this value? Now we have been helpful and written in what each of these cells gonna mean. But note here, once again, that you don't really know that, oh, there's a whole cell array here. But to get the cell array, I'm gonna highlight the output area. Remember now, Control Shift Enter and then we're gonna get all the additional information. But remember now that I have added these helpful names, but without those it's like, what is this? What is this? What is this? What is this? I don't know. And you probably need to search online to find out what does these numbers mean. I'm gonna put in the helpful comments here once again, but very often we want to check the t-stat. We want to make a statistical test. Is this slope significantly different from 0? So I'm gonna take the slope. I can just highlight it like this, and then I get the slope. Another way to do it is to use the index function. So I want to use the index function of this array, and then I can just write in, I want the second row and the first column, or semicolon, sorry. And then I get the standard error. And maybe remember our basic stats, how to calculate that t-statistic. So the t-statistic is just what we observe minus what we expected, which was 0, divided with the standard deviation of that estimate, which is this one. If I push enter, I get a t-stat of negative 4.97, which is larger than 2, which means it's statistically significant at 5% significance level. Once again, this is pretty cumbersome. Yes, we can find the individual slopes, we can use the linnest function, and then we manually need to calculate the t-stat. However, we have this tool pack that we added in the first part. So we're going to use that instead. So under data, we once again have data analysis. And in this pop-up, we actually have something called regression. I'm going to push OK. So either you can click this arrow and highlight the y and x variables, but I have them named, so I'm going to just put in y and x. And then I want a new spreadsheet. You can add like confidence intervals, you can have extra residuals to check, okay, is this a good model? You have normality, probability plots, you have some extra information here that you can just add. I push OK, and it's going to create a new spreadsheet. So we have some plots that it put out, and then we have the regression itself. So this is what we're looking for. Let's see if I can just double click these and make them more viewable. So these are the coefficients. Are they the same that we got in our own calculations? 15.78, yes, that's the slope. And then we have an intercept of 49.63. Yes? Okay. And then we have the standard errors, the t-stat is correct also. So this is a much easier way to do regression. So use the data analysis add-in when you do regressions. And you also get all of this extra information that is nice to have sometimes. Finally, we want to plot this. And this is one of the advantages in Excel, is that it's very easy to do plots. Usually you can just highlight what you want to plot. You go under Insert, and then you can just click Charts. And this time we want a scatter plot. I want to change the title to something readable. So let's say scatter plot with some nice name. I want to add labels on the X and Y axis. So then I can push this plus sign. I want axis titles. And then I can write what the axis contains. So this is the short interest rate. No, this is the price, sorry. So this is the price in dollars. And this is the short interest rate in percentage points. Then I want this trend line, which I also can add just by pushing the plus sign, and then I want to add the trend line. And the nice thing with a graphical interface like Excel is that you can just usually click on what you want to change, and then you can just change around the color you want to use. So this is a big advantage of using like Excel instead of the statistical softwares, because you can just point and click and just change what you want to change to whatever you want. Yes. Grid lines is usually not needed, so I'm just going to delete them to make it more clean. And now we have a presentable plot. It's like, of course we need to write this better, a better title, but it's presentable. Okay, then let's go to the final step.